Thank you.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Okay, do I have to do anything else or is it fine?
You're
Okay,
good. Just let
I'm not
everyone
gonna worry
in.
about it. Okay,
Admit
I'm
all.
gonna mute and let people in. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, welcome everyone that's just joining us. Yes. We're just gonna wait a minute or two to get everybody admitted.
I need another charger. Maybe we can just do this together.
Can we?
We can try. We'll be talking to people too together.
Good
My name
evening,
is
everyone.
Kia.
You can message and be like, Kia and I are on the same computer.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Kia. Is that Kia and Navin?
Yes.
Sorry. As we're muted.
My part of this too?
We can hear you.
Hi, John. We can hear you too.
Good. Okay, good.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. It's so nice to see everyone. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes as people filter in, but then we're going to get started pretty quickly. We're really excited to have all of you here, and I want to make sure we get through everything so that you have a chance to do the networking piece too. So I'll wait maybe one more minute.
Hi, Becky, it's Erica. Just checking if you can hear me.
Hi,
Yay,
Erica.
hi.
Yay.
Hi.
Love it when technology works.
Got to push all the necessary buttons, but not one more.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm in the same boat.
This is it.
Oh, look at all these beautiful faces. So nice.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Bev.
And
Oh, there's
only
Bev.
see three other people. There, perfect.
Alrighty, so maybe what I'll do, I'll ask everybody to mute yourself if you haven't already, or I don't know, maybe Spencer has the power to just mute everyone except for me. And I'm gonna get started. This portion of the event, the next 30 minutes, will be recorded. So in case something happens and you have to leave or your tech fails for some reason, you can always come back and watch the replay of this part of the event. So just to get things started, I wanted to say again, hi, everyone. I think I know a lot of you here, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rebecca White. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Engineers of Tomorrow, and I'm really honored to be hosting the annual end-of-year recognition event for our volunteers. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. And while we meet on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we all call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So to get things started, I would now like to welcome to our virtual stage our founder, Erica Lee Garcia, and Kim Bouffard, the Manager of Belonging and Engagement at Engineers Canada. For those of you who don't know, we've been working really closely with Engineers Canada for a few years now on programs like the Future City Experience. Kim and Erica are here today to chat about a topic that I'm sure will be of interest to everyone in this virtual room. Where is the E in STEM? So please join me in welcoming Erica and Kim to our virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Becky. Thank you for the applause. Good evening, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for taking the time Yeah, Kim, I think I see you. Apparently we were both in a little bit of poor voice this evening, but we'll push through, and I think we're going to have a good chat this evening. I just wanted to say a few quick things, and then Kim, I'll bring you in on some questions and this very relevant topic that I think we've all been asking ourselves for a while about the E in STEM, and how can we elevate the E and have it represented and well understood across our younger generations as well as the general population. So first of all, again, thank you, Becky, for the introduction. My name is Erica. I'm the founder of Engineers of Tomorrow, and I'm coming to you from beautiful Waterloo, Ontario, which is Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral Territory. So apologies in advance if the members of the next generation that live in my house bust in any way. I'll maybe bring them on camera and interview them to get them to give their testimony about what engineering is about. I have daughters 7, 5, and 2 years old, so they keep me very busy, along with the career that I have now. I have 23 years in manufacturing and mining. I'm a Six Sigma Black Belt with an emphasis on making positive change. So the work that started Engineers of Tomorrow actually is coming up on 10 years exactly. We did National Engineering Month in Ontario in 2013. Those were the very, very early days, and we're just so proud of how we've been able to really build up the team and keep the ball rolling now, you know, with Becky taking the reins, bringing Sarah on board, building up our team year after year, to just gather with so much momentum and bringing a lot of the volunteers that we see here on camera. Some of these people have been doing the work even longer than we have. So just such an honor to get to work with you. I got to do a little tiny bit of engineering outreach myself this year. I got to go into my daughter's JK classroom to tell her about engineering. I only had 10 minutes and they're 5 years old, so I didn't get to do anything really elaborate or interactive like I'm sure a lot of you are doing. But I did come armed with Paw Patrol toys, and we talked about how you make toys and how you got to decide what it looks like, and that's called design, and then you got to put it together, and that's called manufacturing. So that was pretty fun. They were not that impressed, unfortunately, but I thought I did a pretty good job of making engineering seem interesting and relevant. And, you know, it's about so much more than math and science. I think sometimes engineering gets lumped in as math and science or explained as math and science. And I only heard the word engineer in grade 12. And I love being an engineer. I think it's exactly who and what I was meant to be. So in one generation, we've gone from hearing about engineering for the first time in grade 12 to JK, so that is some progress. We are making progress. I believe we're moving this in the right direction. And maybe, Kim, this is where I can bring you in to talk about the E in STEM and how we're doing and why this matters, that the next generation understands and has engineering on their radar.
Thanks, Erica. And so, yeah, so apologies in advance. I woke up this morning and didn't have a voice. So hopefully we have a little bit more of one as we get through this. But it's actually really interesting. You mentioned that, Erica, about like the K to 12 and even starting as early as kindergarten. So in Engineers Canada, we recently commissioned a study, and that was the whole purpose of the big question that we had was, where is the E in STEM? Because one of the things that we noticed is that as we were starting to work with organizations, especially STEM-based organizations across the country, and we're starting to work with different classrooms, one of the things that we realized is that when they were talking about STEM, they were really talking about science, technology, and math. The word engineering wasn't being used at all. And so we started to wonder, like, well, maybe this is part of the problem. Maybe it's that, you know, engineering isn't really a curriculum expectation in most schools. And so you have a lot of teachers who, as you know, as a parent, you know, like who spends the most time with your kids after you? Probably, you know, the teacher. They're in a classroom. And so the teachers are talking about science, they're talking about technology, talking about math, and they're doing interesting projects that are engineering related, but they aren't actually calling engineering. Instead of it's this culminative math or science project or tech project that they're working on. So to validate and see if that was something that was really going on, we decided, like, well, let's commission a report and let's see what's going on across Canada when it comes to engineering, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And let's see if we can find out, you know, what are the best practices when it comes to engineering and talking about engineering. Because Engineers Canada, we had a real interest in K to 12 because, well, first of all, maybe people need to know a little bit about who Engineers Canada is. So Engineers Canada, as as you mentioned, has been working with Engineers of Tomorrow for a number of years, but Engineers Canada is the organization that's been created by the 12 regulatory bodies, so the people who actually regulate the engineering license in Canada. And so engineering is a licensed profession, as most people on this call know, and it's regulated by each province. And so almost 80 years ago, because the organization has been around for a long time, they created Engineers Canada as this national body. And our reason for existing is to help support the regulators in the role that they do as a regulator, but also in things like the work that we're doing here. So this K-12 stuff. And that one of the things that, Engineers Canada has a role to play in is around the sustainability of the profession. And so one of the things that we've worked on in our work related to K-12 in particular is all around career awareness. So from K-12, we want to make sure that as many young people as possible are aware of the fact that there's this thing called engineering. And from there, of course, that's why we stemmed this report, because we want to know how many people know about this thing called engineering, how many fantastic organizations are doing things within the classroom, organizations like yourselves, and where are the gaps and what are the things that we could do to help to increase that career awareness. Because one of the things that we're looking at when it comes to sustainability in the profession is we also want to make sure that we want to make sure that engineering reflects the communities that it serves. And so the work that we do at Engineers Canada in K-12 actually falls into a larger portfolio that I manage. The portfolio is called belonging and engagement. So there we also do work around equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we have this goal, this initiative called 30 by 30. And this is starting to significantly expand. But initially it started with, let's see if we can make sure that by 2030, that 30% of new engineering graduates are women. Because right now within the profession, only 14% of the profession are women. So can we have an initiative? Can we start to mobilize people around this to try and see if we can increase the diversity and representation that exists within engineering? And of course, if you want to do that, you got to go right down the pipeline. So that's sort of where this work kind of stemmed from. And that's why we're involved in K-12. So how do we cast that net really wide? So lots of young people of all different backgrounds have an understanding that there's this cool thing called engineering that exists.
Absolutely. And I think we want to put it on the radar. I mean, I think that was the goal. I was joking that I heard the word engineer for the first time in grade 12, but it's not just that we want them to hear the word engineer, but we want them to connect it to something that they can see themselves in, that they relate to, that they think, yeah, that's kind of cool. And a lot of the time, whether we recognize it or not, we can be, or sometimes the kids even, or the teachers, right, who are influencing our children, can have a lot of stereotypes or a lot of unconscious ideas about engineers. So I'm curious if people want to participate a little bit. Let's try this. If you have any specific engineering stereotypes that you're really fond of addressing or even debunking in the classroom. I know when I go into the classroom, I'd love to see if the kids notice the ring, because that's kind of a neat thing to talk about and break the ice on. Hey, my name's Erica. I'm an engineer. Can you tell I'm an engineer by looking at me? And just see what they say. It's a really fun conversation. So we are trying to get them to understand what engineering is. And we also want to get them to understand that it's something they can be part of. I mean, you mentioned the word belonging, and one of the slogans we've been working with for a lot of years within the National Engineering Month campaign is, there is a place for you, right? And one of my all-time favorite moments ever was seeing a kid in a t-shirt that said, there is a place for me in engineering, was the slogan on the back for National Engineering Month. I was just like, that's it right there. We want them to understand the door is open. It's not just about recruiting the next generation of engineers though, as I'm sure a lot of us can appreciate. It's not realistic or even desirable to think that every kid in a classroom is going to sign up for engineering. But tell me, Kim, why it matters that every kid is aware of engineering or has this enhanced understanding of what engineering is and how it fits into society.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that we have going on right now at Engineers Canada is a large marketing campaign. And this marketing campaign is not just about, hey, this is what engineers do to sort of debunk some of those misconceptions, which also came out in the report as one of the main reasons why young people aren't aware of it. Like they just, like you said, if you ask them to draw a picture of what an engineer looks like, it's surprising how many of them drew the same picture. But one of the reasons why is irregardless, one of the main reasons why we did the marketing campaign is because we understood how important it is that the public not only understands what engineers do, but that they trust us. You know, that this building of trust. And so when I think about a classroom, and I think this is one of the things that's exciting about being in the classroom and working with students, is that you have a whole bunch of possibilities in there. You know, you never know where these students are going to end up in life. And some of them might, and if we're lucky, you know, a lot of them will decide that they want to pursue engineering. But even if they don't pursue engineering, engineers work with lots of different kinds of people. I mean, in order to do the really interesting projects that we do, we need to be able to work with people who are biologists, people who are psychologists. And also we need people to want to hire engineers and to acknowledge that the important work that engineers do. And those could be people that are in those classrooms. Like one day, one of them might grow up to be one of the biggest developers in the GTA. You never know. You want them to have an appreciation and understanding of the value that engineers bring to a project. So that way, when an engineer comes to them, because I often hear this in engineering, and I know that, you know, the next generation in particular, for instance, is quite concerned, as we all are concerned about climate change. And I'll hear engineers say, well, you know what, I put forward the best design to the developer, to the organization, whoever it is that commissioned the work. But at the end of the day, it's their project, their choice. As we start to do this, as we start to build trust and an understanding and appreciation of the value that engineers bring to the table, the more those individuals trust you, the more they'll be like, yes, you know what, the more that likely they're going to say, it's not just a recommendation. Like they said this is the best way forward, and irregardless of some of those other things, this is what we should do. I trust this engineer. And
Yeah.
so I think that, you know, I know that's looking really long term, but it's like at the end of the day, you know, when you're doing these presentations in front of these young people, what you're essentially doing is helping to form an opinion and a view of what engineering is, not just making them aware of the fact that there's engineers, but they're also starting to formulate opinions about what that means and whether or not that's a profession that they feel like they could trust.
Absolutely. And so I hope every volunteer here is really feeling and understanding what a difference you make when you walk into the classroom, and the way that you're showing up and connecting with them and giving them those fun activities to do and telling a little bit of your story really makes a difference in the way that they're going to take that sort of that forward in their view of the world. You're really shaping the future in a very sort of literal way, not only through the work that you're doing, but also in the way that you're representing. So we're here to celebrate you. Thank you, the volunteers, and appreciate what you're doing. I have one more question, Kim, and then of course, I think we just have 2 more minutes if you want to throw in anything else. Something I've seen in the 10 years that I've been, you know, facilitating these conversations between engineers who are volunteers and kids who want to know about it in some form, right? Whether it's a church basement or a Girl Guide meeting or in a classroom, wherever that conversation is happening, there's something really amazing that happens. When you do it right, you have an experience for the volunteer that is also very meaningful and energizing and interesting. And when we do it right, don't we, Becky? We see this a lot, that people come away feeling, oh, wow, this is why I do what I do. This is pretty cool. They get a little bit of perspective from that everyday, you know, whatever the frustrations might be of their current tasks that they're up to at work. Not only getting this sense of, I get to inspire the next generation, which is a pretty amazing thing to get to do. But they also walk away with an experience for themselves. So I'm just interested if anyone else in the chat wants to share about the impact that doing this work has had on you, whether you're doing it for the first time this year or whether you've been doing it for 35 years, like some of our veteran volunteers. Just interested if you want to take a moment to reflect and really celebrate. You know, you're putting in that time, you're choosing to make this commitment. There is a reason our volunteers keep coming back over and over again. They must be getting something out of it that's really meaningful and wonderful. And we think that that's worth really appreciating and taking a moment to note and to value.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because like we sometimes forget, and even when you're looking at long term, of like, you know, part of what Engineers Canada is interested in is like, is also this culture shift within the profession, you know, making having a profession that's more equitable and inclusive. And one of the things that we love about your program, with the EI program, and is that not only does it check off all the list of what came out of this report around like how, you know, some of the best ways to inspire the next generation and have them have an appreciation of what engineering does is through mentorship and through like localized programming. And even starting really young, that you mentioned starting in kindergarten. Well, it's nice that the EIR program does all of K to 12, because one of the surprising things that came out of the research is the fact that they're like, we need to do things younger. We always thought, oh, the sweet spot, is grades 6, 7, 8. But what the research was telling us is actually you got to go younger. And you have to go younger, of course, because of the parents. At a younger age, the parents are much more inclined to not have a preconceived notion about what their child could do. When you're in kindergarten, it's like, sure, be an astronaut. By grade 8, you're like, well, your math skills might not be what I think they are. And the parents are starting to make those decisions, right? But once you get really young, the younger one, like it's sort of that clean slate. But one of the things that again, coming back to what you were saying is that my background is actually in behavioral science and education. That's where when I look back, that's where I sort of started from. And we always sometimes forget that, when we're working with youth in particular, or working with anyone, that it's like, just as much as you're having an impact on them, they're also starting to have an impact on you. And one of the things that we're starting to see is people who, like yourselves, who tend to volunteer and, are out there putting themselves out there and speaking to that next generation. You bring that back to your workplaces too. And that is also starting to help us to start to shift those cultures, because, one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is not, and Engineers Canada, not only are we working very closely with organizations like Engineers of Tomorrow to help to, inspire that next generation, but we're also working with other organizations and engineering firms to ensure that when they get there, that they want to stay, that this is something that's reflective of them. And we find that individuals that like participate in programs like the ones that you're offering, the EIR program, that interaction, that working with the youth has changed their perspective a bit, and they start to notice things and they start to change things in their own workplaces. It could be as simple as how maybe they're just a little bit more inclined to listen and give time of day to that junior staff person that they're working with, or or even they're more conscious and careful about the wording and stuff that they're using at work. The language really matters, right? And so we've started to notice these kind of effects. So not only is programs like the ones that you're doing and the volunteers helping to inspire that next generation, but in a lot of ways, unconsciously and sometimes consciously, they're bringing some of that back, that wanting to make sure that the workplaces that they're working in are going to be conducive, are going to be welcoming to these young kids that they're inspiring. So there is that kind of back and forth kind of effect. And I think we don't talk about that enough. I don't know if there's enough research to, but I know that that it's definitely something that I've noticed. And I'm curious to see if it's something that your volunteers have noticed too. If it's like, yes, you're inspiring that next generation, but do you think that's changed you at all? Has it changed how you might notice things at work, or how you, because I wouldn't be surprised.
I love what you're bringing up here, Kim. That's so interesting to contemplate, and absolutely would love to hear from any of the volunteers on the chat here today. Could not agree more about getting employers involved and taking some of the lessons from the impactful engineering outreach that we're doing, that is strategically inclusive and engaging and energizing, and making that part of our work. You really can't shape the future without understanding the now. So I think there's something pretty cool here reflected in this group of people that is defining and moving forward the culture of the engineering profession as powerfully expressed in all these different ways. So Kim, I could talk to you for so long. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And I'm going to hand it back over to Sarah and Becky. And thank you everyone who is engaging in the chat. Love to see all your comments. And I've really enjoyed the chance to be part of the event here tonight.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Keep putting your comments into the chat, but I'm going to move on so we can get through our full agenda today. And again, thank you so much to Erica and Kim. What I took away from that conversation, what I hope all of you take away from it, is that you're part of something big. So I know you're maybe going into one classroom or doing, it feels maybe like a small impact, but you really are part of something big. And yes, there's lots of work to be done still, but I know there's lots of energy and excitement and from everyone here tonight to really just be a part of this. So speaking of energy and excitement, I wanted to highlight some of this year's accomplishments. This was the first time that we've had some participation from Indigenous schools. Now we're still in the early stages of building these relationships, but we're already seeing new ways that we can support Indigenous students and teachers through the EIR program. As many of you know, and Kim and Erica spoke about this, but diversity and inclusion is really embedded into everything we do in the way that we talk to kids about engineering. Kim mentioned some of the stats as well. So something that we're really proud of is that 40% of our volunteers are female. We're proud that everyone here has created this inclusive community where women feel comfortable and connected. And we're proud that we can be shining examples for future generations. And then finally, we continue to find some new and exciting ways to work with some like-minded partners so that we can continue to support all of you and all this awesome work that's happening. So now we're going to share some numbers with you. Who doesn't love the numbers? To do that, I am going to hand the mic over to Sarah Rishu. Sarah joined us this past winter as our operations manager. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. I agree. Who doesn't love the numbers? Hi, everyone. I think I've met a lot of you. There's so many familiar faces here on camera. I'm so excited everyone's here. And welcome to all of the new people who are just joining us for the first time. I'm Sarah Rishu. I'm a professional industrial and chemical engineer. I graduated from Queen's. I see some faces on the video, people I went to school with at Queen's. How cool is that? I worked in the food industry in the Toronto area for about 20 years, and recently in the last 5 years or so moved out to British Columbia, and I still do a little bit of consulting, but really my focus now is on community initiatives. And gosh, I just love the work that we're doing at Engineers of Tomorrow. I'm really involved in my school. I'm an EIR. I go in and I actually help with math classes, which is super fun to do with high school kids. I get a chance to talk to them about their goals and what they're doing for university. I'm on my regional parent council, which has been a new adventure for me. And I do some work with my local mountain biking association. So a little bit of a personal side of things there. I have 2 kids. One of them is going into second year manufacturing engineering this fall. You're going to get a chance to hear from him in a bit because he's also involved in Engineers of Tomorrow. And my youngest just told me in the last couple of days, he thinks maybe he should apply for engineering in university. And my husband is an engineer as well. So we are an engineering family, and my husband's an EIR with me. So all of you, you are part of something really big. Look at these numbers. Over the last 10 years, the EIR program has grown from a very respectable 100 classes to over 300. And I put in some projections there for 2023. We are going to be at 300 again. And some of these schools actually want more than one class to be part of it. So it's going to be even bigger, I am positive. And that number doesn't even include the fact that we hit over 100 schools for Future Cities this year. How cool is that? Future Cities is bigger than EIR once was. I'm just so proud of that. And we're hearing from teachers that the Engineer in Residence program is exactly what they need in the classroom. All of you volunteers, you're creating connections that with the students that are super unique, and it leaves a lasting impact with them. So amazing work. Okay, Spencer, go ahead to the next one. Our goal at Engineers of Tomorrow, just like everyone's been talking about, is really just to introduce students to authentic real life engineers so that they can see that they have a place in the profession. And I want to give you a sense of what our community looks like. So here are a couple of stats of interest. Becky already mentioned that 40% of our EIRs are female. Many of our volunteers actually identify as minorities, are sexually diverse, or have disabilities. And that means that even more kids see themselves reflected in their engineering role models. How cool is that? This year, 16% of our EIRs speak enough French to support immersion and even fully French classes. And we're building plans to do more and more of that. And we're so excited to have Leia on our team who speaks fluent French, and she's been helping us with some of that growth work that we're doing. 58% of our EIRs are engineering graduates or professional engineers, and 26% are EITs and students. This year, we partnered with Enbridge when we did Future Cities to help build mentoring opportunities between these people within our community, and we want to expand that more and more. I think there's so much opportunity there. And lastly, 15% of our EIRs are connected to the engineering community through other STEM roles. We have people who work in AI, cybersecurity, software, architecture, environmental science, and it goes on and on and on. And this gives students even more opportunities to see themselves involved in STEM beyond school. I'm sure I've told so many of you this. My passion project since joining Engineers of Tomorrow has been to expand our reach outside Ontario. This is a program that started in Ontario. We have tons of people there, and my goal is to get us across Canada. And I'm so excited to say for this coming year, we've grown significantly in BC, Alberta, and in Manitoba. And through the generosity of engineers at national companies like Finning and Canada Post, we've significantly increased our reach from coast to coast to coast, as Spencer wants me to say, because we're moving up north as well. By expanding our national reach, we're also looking to engage many, many more Indigenous students. 15% of the classes that we're going to be working with this year have already told us that they have Indigenous students. And Becky mentioned that we've been working with Indigenous classes. We had 5 fully Indigenous schools involved this year, and we have 11 new ones signed up. How cool is that? We had more classes than ever participate from the East Coast in Future Cities this year, including a lot of French-only schools. And within Ontario, our partnership with the City of Toronto is going to create new connections across the GTA. Post-COVID, virtual connections have had a huge impact on our ability to reach students because we have the flexibility to match classrooms with engineers no matter the distance. So this was the pilot year for us to leverage regional networks and regional chairs. And those of you that are new, I'll just give you a little bit of a sense of what that is. We've split Canada into 10 different regions and given our volunteers the opportunity to network within their regions so that they have an opportunity to talk to like-minded volunteers like themselves. We've had a lot of success stories this year, and we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. We're going to be continuing this into the new year. Because this support initiative creates really valuable opportunities for people to network and learn from each other. And some of our regions even include teachers, which is really fun to see. We get a lot of ideas coming through in those meetings. So I mentioned we have 10 regions. We have BC and Alberta, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, Eastern Canada, and Ontario is split into 7 regions because we have so many people in Ontario. And I just love going to the meetings that these guys have. Like, it's been so rewarding for me to hear everyone's success stories and to see the presentations from guest speakers that have come in and have the chance to network. We are going to be talking a lot more about regional networks in Gather Town. So take a look out for a breakout room specifically on that as we move over into that forum. Okay, this is my last slide. I'm thrilled to share that 5 of our wonderful regional chairs from this year are planning to return for the upcoming school year. Don B, Don H, Jessica, Prab, and Nefemi. And you may remember Prab because he was our regional chair in Western Ontario, and he's now moved to my province, BC, and he's going to stay on in that role. And we want to thank all the other regional chairs that were involved in this part of the program this year. Remy, Santa Diana, Akila, Malad, and Sam Jahana. We really appreciate everything that you did. Now we have 5 roles open. So if anyone's interested in being a regional chair in Ontario, we would love to hear from you. And if you choose to do this, we're going to support you every step of the way. And that's all. That's what I had. Thank you.
That's a lot. Thank you so much, Sarah. I know everybody's getting excited hearing about all of the numbers and all the just exciting things that are going on. That said, we want to wrap things up and get you over into Gather Town now so you can start with the networking dialogue portion of the event. So in just a few minutes, we will transition over to Gather Town. When you enter Gather Town, you'll be in the main stage room. You're going to see 4 doors, 2 on your left and 2 on your right. those doors lead into the discussion rooms or breakout rooms. For those of you who haven't used GatherTown before, it's a proximity-based platform. So you'll be able to walk your avatar up to another avatar and have a conversation with them. So you can only see and hear people that you're close to. Before you go, I'll just give you a brief overview of the discussion rooms so you can plan your trip. So in the top left, you're going to find Bev Takeoka. Bev's an experienced DIR who would love to chat with you about her experience and some of the things that she's learned over the years. The room right below that in the bottom left is where you'll find Megan Fikowski. Megan has been developing a lesson plan on climate change with the help of some of our EIRs. If you're not sure what to do in the classroom next year, visit Megan to learn more about this really awesome activity. In the top right, you can visit with our EIR librarian, Sandy. Hi, Sandy. To learn more about the Library of Lessons. We've had quite a few new ones added this year, and we love to see our library continue to grow. And then finally, in the bottom right corner, you can visit with, I'm sorry, Sandy's in the bottom right. And then in the top right corner, you can visit with Donna Chung and Thomas Sears. And they're there to answer any questions you might have about those regional supports that Sarah mentioned. And definitely stop in there if you're interested in one of those open regional chair roles. Okay, so we will see you in GatherTown. Be sure to fully exit this Zoom call before you enter into the GatherTown space. You should have received an email from Eventbrite with the link for GatherTown. And we can actually just throw it in the chat there as well, just in case. And if you have any trouble, please just send me or Sarah or Spencer or Leah an email. We really don't want you getting lost in cyberspace. There's the link. Leah dropped it in the chat for everyone. So we will see you all there.
Maria's winning an award tonight. She doesn't know that. I think I just told her that. Can you hear me, Maria?
Hello. So we have to exit this room.
Yeah, that's correct. We're going to GatherTown. You can see the link in the chat.
I got this connection that I can't see the